Dixon in 7, Gabby Matthews in 8. And it is Adaejah Hodge working hard through the turn.
A good start by Cameron Dixon, though, as well, and I think that pushed Hodge a little bit.
Hodge is not going to give up this lead. Adaejah Hodge running for a little redemption after that 100, depending on what the win.
She just goes into an alter ego here.
Okay, your performances so far today. You obliterated Sha'Carri's record. What was the plan going into that?
Honestly, the plan was to execute. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been working on my block clearance, making sure to go back front and not pushing off of both at the same time. So it was honestly just to do that, stand up tall. We know I have really good top end speed, and just go out there and set the tone.
Were you surprised when you saw the time when you crossed the line?
I actually didn't see the time at all. I ran straight into the tunnel. I didn't know what I ran, because it's just business at the end of the day. This is just day one. We still have to come back on Saturday for day 2. So I didn't want to get caught up in times or anything, but mainly execution.
A 20-year-old college sophomore just recorded a time that put her in the top 5 women in the history of the sport. At the Olympics, this did not occur. At a Diamond League final, it didn't occur. It took place during a college meets preliminary heat, and the mark she broke belongs to one of the world's most famous sprinters. As a true freshman at LSU in 2019, Sha'Carri Richardson broke the NCAA women's 100-meter record. The timing of 10.75 seconds is one of the most renowned figures in the history of collegiate track. It was 7 years later. There were several Olympic cycles. Numerous women with the quickest speeds on the planet advanced via the NCAA system. None of them even came close. By the end of this film, you will have a clear understanding of why a single race in Eugene, Oregon, put the whole sprinting community in shock. Keep that figure in mind, 10.75. And why the athlete who broke Sha'Carri Richardson's record will always be associated with her name. But first, let's go back to the beginning of Adaejah Hodge's story. Adaejah Hodge was born in 2006 on Tortola in the British Virgin Islands, a tiny Caribbean island with less than 35,000 residents that is hardly a haven for elite sprinters. Together with her siblings, Adaejah and Dine, she was primarily raised by her mother, Adaejah Hodge. Her family relocated to Douglasville, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta, when she was 9 years old. A distinct nation, an alternative educational system, a very distinct culture. That's a complete identity reset for a 9-year-old, not just a small change. She was able to navigate both worlds, though. While training and growing up in the competitive sprinting milieu of suburban Atlanta, she represented her native country, the British Virgin Islands, on the world circuit. Her entire career would be shaped by this conflicted identity as she alternated between competing against some of America's best prep athletes in high school events and representing a small island nation at the Carifta Championships. Her talent was evident by the time she enrolled in Florida's Montverde Academy for high school. She was the first athlete from the British Virgin Islands to win the Austin Seeley Award, which is given to the meet's top performer at the 2022 Carifta Games in Jamaica. She was only 16. Hodge broke the world U20 indoor 200-meter record in 2023 while still a high school student, finishing in 22.33 seconds at the New Balance Indoor Championships in Boston. As a youngster, she competed against seasoned professional women in the 200-meter semifinals of the Senior World Athletics Championships in Budapest. Then came 2024. Hodge won silver in the 100 meters and gold in the 200 meters at the World U20 Championships in Lima, Peru. A few weeks later, at the age of just 18, she represented the British Virgin Islands on the largest stage in sports as she entered the Paris Olympics, carrying her country's flag during the opening ceremony. 5 records for each age group, a global U20 champion. Before she had even finished high school, she was an Olympian. Adaejah Hodge appeared to be a rising star headed straight for glory by all accounts. After that, everything she had constructed nearly fell apart. Hodge tested positive for GW516, a prohibited substance, in August 2024. The same summer, she won the gold medal in Lima and carried the Olympic flag in Paris. They took away her World U20 Championship gold and silver. She was suspended by the Athletics Integrity Unit. When the test came back positive, she was 18. The public wouldn't learn of the ban until she had completed the majority of its 17-month duration, which spanned from August 2024 to January 2026. The AIU clarified that the delay was required because Hodge had assisted with a more extensive inquiry, and disclosing it earlier might have compromised that process. That cooperation was reflected in her lesser punishment. Think about what that really meant. An 18-year-old who was already participating in Olympic competitions for her nation was abruptly eliminated from competition for a whole season. No NCAA Championships in 2025. Tokyo will not host any World Championships. Hodge trained in secret, away from everyone's notice, with no assurance that she would be permitted to return to the sport while her competitors raced, achieved new personal bests, and gained momentum. Months later, the news finally surfaced, and the internet responded as usual. Hodge gave a frank response. "I know the truth behind it," she declared. "A lot of people may say what they want, but those are just haters." That's the sacrifice that no highlight reel can capture. A year of a brief athletic prime spent discreetly restoring trust, while strangers on the internet had already determined who she was. Not a city abandoned or a gym abandoned. Hodge is reinstated in January 2026. As a redshirt sophomore with much to prove to a public that had, in many ways, already written her off, she returns to the University of Georgia. In her first significant comeback test, she wins the NCAA Indoor 200-meter title on March 14, 2026. The AIU formally announces her suspension to the public 2 days later. Her redemption and her reckoning fell within the same week due to the timing. A doping case, a lost world U20 title, and a gap year that no outsider could confirm were all part of the story that the critics had prepared. The skeptics weren't being unjust. They were supported by the paper trail. 5 weeks later, they had no idea what was going to happen. Hodge set a national record for the British Virgin Islands on April 18, 2026, at the Tom Jones Memorial in Gainesville, Florida, with a timing of 10.77 seconds. This time put her second on the all-time NCAA list, only 0.02 of a second behind Sha'Carri Richardson. She had given the track world a warning. Outside of the sport, very few people paid attention. Hayward Field, Eugene, Oregon. It was almost time for the 2026 NCAA Division I Outdoor Track and Field Championships to begin. Jacoby Tharp of Auburn had broken the world mark in the 110-meter hurdles with a time of 12.75 seconds on the same course the day before. Before the women's sprints even started, the event was already being referred to as one of the most significant in college history. Hodge was the second fastest woman in NCAA history, going into the 100 meters, just behind a record that most people thought would never be broken. She knew Richardson's number by heart. She was well aware of the precise moment she needed to strike. Nearly no one outside of her own camp anticipated that. They ought to have kept a closer eye on it. Before I tell you what transpired, please leave a remark. Were you aware of Adaejah Hodge prior to this meeting? I read each and every comment. June 11, 2026, Thursday night. On a track that is already considered to be among the fastest on Earth. The conditions were almost perfect. 77 degrees, bright, with a tailwind of 1.9 meters per second, only a tenth below the legal limit. In the first heat of the 100-meter preliminary, Hodge jumped out of the starting blocks with a time of 10.63 seconds. Not only did she surpass Sha'Carri Richardson's 2019 record of 10.75, but she destroyed it by 0.12 of a second. She became the quickest female athlete in NCAA history. In addition to setting a global U20 record, she rose to 5th place among all women who have ever raced the 100 meters, regardless of level or time period. 10.63, Florence Griffith Joyner, Elaine Thompson-Herah, Shelley Ann Fraser-Price, and Melissa Jefferson Wooden are the only 4 names above her on that list. A 20-year-old college sophomore had recently joined that company, and it took place in a preliminary heat with 2 days left before the final. This is what intensifies the impact of the number. The quickest time Sha'Carri Richardson has ever run, set in 2023. The time in Budapest when she won the World Championship was 10.65 seconds. The current World Champion's heat time at a collegiate competition was the fastest she had ever run in her whole career. And just 72 hours later, Richardson began her own 2026 season at the LA Grand Prix, winning her race in 10.999 seconds, as Hodge's name continued to dominate track and field headlines. Even if the season opening was flawless, it was still over 0.3 of a second. Jamaica won the title in 10.88. Hodge later claimed that she quickly overcame her sadness because she had another final scheduled for that same evening, the 200 meters. With the quickest time, she had already qualified. On the same day that she had lost the 100, she broke Abby Steiner's collegiate record of 21.8 seconds in 2022 by pulling away from the pack and crossing the finish line in 21.68 seconds. This was her first solo NCAA outdoor title. 3 months prior, a 20-year-old who had been publicly written off as a cautionary story about doping had achieved a record-breaking run, a runner-up finish, and a national championship in one night, at one meet. After all of this, the positive test, the 17-month ban, the public humiliation, the runner-up result in the 100 final, and a 100-meter speed quicker than the current world champion has ever lawfully run. This is what truly reveals Adaejah Hodge. She didn't avoid the topic of doping. According to her own words, she confronted it head-on and used the incident as motivation to work even harder. That is not a prepared statement. In front of the cameras, the 20-year-old is unwilling to let one chapter sum up her entire life. For 7 years, Sha'Carri Richardson maintained that NCAA record. She is one of the most well-known sprinters in the world, a 3-time world champion, and only